Right, yeah. Exactly.
All right, we're on recording.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Let's convene the board meeting of the Capitalized Holding Corporation. Welcome, everybody. Are we rolling?
All this to go.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Well, we have a great meeting today and I really appreciate that. We have some guests and we have a new director, which is really exciting. First, I want to welcome Chris Ellis, who's sitting to my left. Deputy Mayor has been officially joining his first board meeting as a member. So Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. And also on my left, Mike Evely from the ESD, our regional director, is going to be giving us an update on the governor's CAP initiative and this really unprecedented commitment to downtown Albany that is tremendously exciting. And we're going to get a debrief on that and a discussion and talk about how we can be as impactful as possible to bring this vision forward. I don't know, do you think it makes sense? Chris, how well do you know everybody in this room? You know everybody?
50-50, 60.
Let's go around the table quickly. We can introduce ourselves, our organization, and how long we've been at the board. Michael?
Sure, Michael Castellano, we go way back. Chris has had his hand in my pocket since he's entered the mayor's office, but I have been associated with Capitalized Albany for probably too long, but thrilled to have you on board. Thank you.
Richard Sleesman of CBRE Upstate New York, happy 3 years now in work.
John Harris, Brandon Weinrob, closing on 20 years, I think.
John Barrow, I'm an attorney in private practice and too many years to count. I don't know.
I'm Tony Gaddy, U.S. Black Chambers, upstate New York, and I'm not sure how long that happened here. It's been a while.
Dave Perenni, I operate with a funeral home in Albany and I chair the Central Avenue Business Improvement District. And I've been here since Albany was called Fort Orange.
Kaylee Hogan, Schechter, Capitalized Albany staff.
Maria Lynch, Capitalized Albany staff. Cassidy Roberts, Capitalized Albany staff.
Andrew Begin, Capitalized Albany staff. Andy Corsiel, Capitalized Albany staff.
So, Capitalized Albany.
Michael?
Communications manager at my company.
I'm with ACU Capitalized Albany.
Great. Amanda Thompson, Chair.
Yeah, Tom Owens, counsel.
Mike Evely, ESD, guest.
Mike Fancher with Albany and the Center for Advanced Technology, the CAT, and CNSC as well.
And Brian Kearns with UHY, independent auditors at Capitalized Albany.
Absolutely. In the city too.
Yes.
Chris Ellis, Deputy Mayor, and to be up front, he's had his hand in my pocket since my first day of work, and I've directly deposited every single check since I've been here.
And I count your money. When I come in, I count it every month.
We're not confused about the role. We appreciate the clarity, though, for sure. For sure. Well, that's great. Well, we convened this meeting and we've got an agenda, obviously, and we're gonna do a couple of things today. First and most importantly, we're gonna have an invited guest, but before we do that, let's get a motion to approve the minutes on the floor, please. Motion. A second. Any corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very unanimously. And then, we have 2 invited guests, which is exciting. We have, nothing is more exciting than the annual audit.
Yeah.
But more exciting than that, Michael's here and, he knows this room well, and he knows this room extremely well, as a former, leader of this organization. And I imagine some of the faces around the table. It's like you never.
Yeah, well, I could have did a little on it, it's just like everybody's time. I mean, I've been gone for 12 years. I was here for 9. And many of you guys were here long before I even started, so yes, it's been a while for many of us.
It's incriminating. It's incriminating. But it's really great to have you back. You've done incredible stuff since you've left. You did incredible stuff here. The city's better for it. And you've done incredible stuff where you left, and now this incredible commitment the governor has made through the budget process to the CAP initiative is so tremendously exciting. And as we sit in this organization, we're in the center of that initiative of all things economic development in the city of Albany. And of course, with our critical initiative around living park, which is so vital to the success of the city. So Michael, thanks for coming and give us an update on this great initiative and where we stand for.
Excellent, thank you, Mayor, and thanks for those fine words and the opportunity you all gave me, many years ago, bring me out to work with you all, so I appreciate it. Learned a lot and I've had a very rewarding time here in Albany and continuing to be here in Albany, so. As opposed to a formal presentation, pass around, this is what we're calling a little leave behind for folks, I think it's a good. It's just a good thing to have in front of you, and I'm gonna kind of use my talking points from some presentations, but much as conversation we can have, I wanna have, so let me just get through some of these words and then we'll talk, so. Of course, in last year's budget, Governor Hochul launched the Champion Albany's Potential Initiative, what we're calling the CAP Initiative, an unprecedented $400 million investment in downtown Albany. The initiative includes funding to revitalize the New York State Museum. It's also funding the reimagining I-787 study and design. There's also money for improvements and connectivity to Empire State Plaza, public safety support, and of course, the $200 million to support redevelopment efforts in downtown Albany. As the capital of New York, Albany has unique assets. You all know this. It's the center of a strong growing region. It's the hub of New York State government and has a history of innovation. We also, I think, know some of this too. But downtown has faced challenges that have been amplified by post-pandemic shift in work and social patterns. Much of this is not unique to Albany. Like other mid-sized cities, vacant storefronts lack in vibrancy in the city's core, and changing work and social patterns have led to quality of life and public safety concerns, making it difficult to attract and retain city-centered businesses and residents. Downtown Albany's issues are compounded by almost 2/3 of the city's property being tax exempt, which has strained municipal resources. Policy and the delivery of services were not matching the needs for the market, and in short, competitiveness of Albany to secure new investment faced mounting challenges. A concentrated analysis leading to clear and informed action items and a development of strategic toolbox were identified as phase 1 and became the focus of Empire State development. A cornerstone of the governor's CAP initiative is ESD's Downtown Albany strategy. This community-informed, data-driven strategy is intended to guide decision-making, secure investment, and coordinated actions to reinvigorate a focused area within 1 mile radius of the state capitol. So we go back to last May, the ESD board approved a contract to select MIG, a national planning and economic development firm, to help guide the planning process and support the state-led initiative. Since then, we undertook a comprehensive and inclusive community engagement process to hear from Albany's residents, workers, business leaders, and visitors. We heard from thousands through public meetings, stakeholder interviews, focus groups, and surveys. Last month, the governor unveiled the final strategy. Shortly thereafter, the ESD Board of Directors approved new capital grant program guidelines for the $200 million of investment funding. And on March 3rd, ESD went live in an open call for applications. Pretty proud to be part of the team that did all of this in less than 10 months. Not bad for government work. We're in business. We're actually into phase 2 as we speak. So what did we hear and learn? Well, to address downtown challenges, again, I think this is a rocket science. More quality housing, jobs, safe public spaces, and visitors are not just desires, but must-haves. The downtown strategy clearly identifies growth targets, the what, concentrated investment areas, the where, and the tools and partnerships needed to achieve and measure success, and that is the how. So let's start with the what. Pondering the question, what do we want to achieve, was an early focus. We knew we needed growth targets to help define and measure success. These targets will give partners a shared benchmark, help direct resources, and ensure progress is measurable. These were shaped by public input about what the community wants, grounded by existing conditions, and compared to peer cities. Some examples: Hartford, Connecticut, Worcester, Massachusetts, and Providence, Rhode Island. So if you look at your sheet, page 1 at the bottom, these are the growth targets. So this is sort of the strategy of what we want to achieve. First and foremost, residential growth. You know, it's critical. Downtown needs significantly more residential living in the core and a wider mix of housing types and price points to achieve 24/7 activation and a lot more everyday street level activities. If you go to the strategy, you'll see us compared to some of the benchmark in some of those peer cities, and we are significantly below those. So the goal is to triple the downtown population by 2035. A robust, but I think achievable goal. Of course, with some changes, we see at the city level that have helped that, specifically with inclusionary zone. Job growth, you know, again, modest, but I think still a challenge, you know, add 1,500 jobs in 5 years and 3,000 jobs in 10 years. I think that the thing here that we really focused on was diversifying that mix, not relying on state government, not relying on the traditional regional, you know, center type downtown service businesses. We need to diversify that to address, changing patterns in work. Visitor activity, we need more visitors, and, you know, this is a pretty lofty goal. Reach 5 million annual visitors, increase their average stay by 90 minutes, and, increase the number of event days we have. This is definitely doable. You know, there's well over 1 million visitations every year now, so, this is definitely achievable. Leveraging confidence, this is strictly, we need to leverage private sector investment. This is an economic development strategy. It's not a community development strategy. It's not a plan for the municipality. This is to create economic development. And then to put 3 catalytic sites into motion, early and fast to show momentum. And finally, the one that I always struggle with, and this is public safety. It's, you know, the consultant felt it was important that we self-police this, so to speak, by creating a narrative. I'm gonna be looking for some partners, whether it's bid or capitalized Albany or some combination of each group to, again, create our own narrative, start with a baseline. How do people feel in downtown, and measuring that over time to ensure success. So there is no like national positive safety rating thing we're gonna go on ourselves. So I can take a break there for a minute. Want to talk about these growth targets, or should I just keep going?
People have questions, or you want to keep running?
You will?
Alright.
So actually, then you can flip the page. So, if the growth, you know, the growth targets define what success will look like. The investment areas we created show where coordinated investments can produce visible, far-reaching change in the success we intended. The study area, as we all know, represents a diverse city landscape. The strategy's focus and sequencing approach will guide us to stay disciplined so investments reinforce each other. The areas outlined on the map were identified through engagement and analysis. These are not the only places that matter, but where near-term action can create the most visible change and generate outward momentum. The strategy frames these as the highest leverage areas for early action, then where CAC resources can stack housing, small business growth, public realm upgrades, catalytic development, all moving in tandem. For each investment area, the report provides the existing condition summary, focus on needs and assets, a clear vision statement, CAC-specific actions to advance projects, and illustrations that show that what the vision can look like in real locations. So quickly going through these, starting with the downtown heart, that State and Pearl is the core of the downtown bid district. We call this the engine. And of course, you identify this as the fastest place to shift the day to night feel, do storefront energy, public realm upgrades, and housing and office conversions. Moving on to Albany's new downtown neighborhoods, Liberty Park, of course, very interesting to you folks. Part of this, you know, it's an ability to create a new neighborhood, the Broadway corridor, where we don't have a lot of concentration of housing, and all of that connecting to the waterfront was seen as a real opportunity to create a new feel and a new neighborhood within the downtown. The warehouse district gateway, the centerpiece of this, of course, is the central warehouse area. And we are looking at this not just as a site, but as a large scale redevelopment opportunity. The South End gateway pairs near-term street safety upgrades with cultural and housing investment that meets today's market, that built over time in a smart and equitable way. Of course, a cornerstone there would be, the Lincoln Tower site, as well as County DMV site, a great opportunity areas, in the south end. The International District, again, with the Central Avenue bid, who's already done a lot of work building this, initiative. We want to, build on these existing vital businesses, support the daily need with safer, more comfortable streets and plazas, and improve storefronts. Center Square, Lark Street area, protected character while boosting livability, pedestrian comfort upgrades, lighting and wayfinding, and gentle infill and reuse where it fits, supporting a wider mix of events and programming. And finally, the Clinton Square Arts and Heritage area, reinforce an art and cultural spine with public space upgrades, reuse, and infill that adds housing, mixed use, and foot traffic to support these local institutions. Now, moving on to the how. These potential development opportunities cover a wide variety of uses ranging from large transformational redevelopment sites, public infrastructure improvements, addressing commercial vacancy, of course, the full spectrum of housing types, and actually beyond all of that. To make the funding process seamless and user-friendly, ESP developed 3 distinct funding programs, each with their own focus, criteria, and expected outcomes. During the public engagement phase of the strategy, the number one most frequent questions were related to how can my project or idea be considered for funding and support? Who's going to get the $200 million? Who's gonna create the list of projects? That's what we faced along the way. Early on, we committed to an open process that was ultimately delivered in the funding application portal that opened to the public earlier this month. It's created a robust excitement and interest, including ESD receiving over 50 inquiries, many of which have been advanced to application phase. So let me just quickly highlight these funds. The Transformative Project Fund, we've dedicated $120 million to this. Of course, we've also dedicated $40 million to support the Liberty Park redevelopment. Projects for this category must be of minimum size of $5 million with a minimum award of $2.5 million. These are quite liberal compared to most of our guidelines, but 50% non-ESD funding versus 50% total match. So that's pretty good. Housing, we dedicated $40 million. Again, we want a full spectrum, so you need to generate at least 2 net new units of housing qualified, and that's a 60-40 match. And then the community fund at $40 million, very similar to our typical CFA. Here we have a minimum project cost of $200,000, and a minimum award of $100,000. That's also a 50-50. Yeah, moving on. So the how, much more than just the $200 million, right? It's got to be done with more than $200 million in matching capital grant funds. We need to maintain a robust partnership we've developed with the city and the county and our state partners at OGS, DOT, HCR, and of course the community. Early outcomes and wins are a must. Local implementation, zoning, permitting incentives are a must. Public support is a must. Near and midterm and long-term goals around the implementation and sustainability to ensure we are coordinated and focused are of course a must. We need to continue to work in tandem to achieve and sustain a new story of vibrancy for New York's capital city. And that's where we all come together, and that's where I stop talking and hopefully we can help guide me in making that happen.
That's great. This is an intense commitment, and I commend you on a few things. I think the thoughtfulness of its of the rollout. I love the openness that you've had. This commitment to an open process. It's been really wonderful, and I think it's challenging because everything it's easier to control everything, but to open this up and make this diversity. One of the challenges I see is, for what sounds like a tight geography, there's a lot of diversity to what you're doing. And it's just diversity of communities, it's diversity of initiatives, it's diversity of types, whether you talk culture, housing, job creation, infrastructure. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. So as you think about sequencing this, how do you think about sequencing the next steps? Is it gonna be kind of a wagon train or projects hopefully that come through, or is there prioritization now at this point as you think about that?
So You know, the funding is open competitive, right? There's no time frame, so it's, that's what I describe as sort of first come, first serve. That is gonna be driving the trade, most of it is that project activity received through applications. We're doing a rollout, making ourselves available to, of course, groups like Capitalize Albany. Some of the neighborhood groups, we're gonna be going to Cana, the mayor hosted a citywide meeting that was unable to attend, but I know it was well attended and I think well received by everybody there. So we're gonna roll it out, make sure everybody's aware. But we're also looking, and there's not just focusing on this $200 million. I mean, that is sort of our prime job, but it's going above and beyond that. How do we leverage other resources? We've been on the phone with HCR, making sure we're coordinating with them, making sure, of course, we're coordinating with OGS, and making sure we're coordinated with the city and county governments who have big footprints in here of potential projects and influence.
Right.
So how can we use this 200 million in this momentum to leverage more? It's gonna be a big focus.
I know the city has historically worked with Capitalize Albany very closely. We think about the ARPA process and things like that as a gateway to validation of projects coming through. And is that your expectation moving forward? I think that's the expectation around the table, that we'll be here to support organizations going forward and be a portal to work with the city of Albany to make sure that projects have their full support as they move forward here.
Doing much of what you do each and every day, I think is important, right? Of course, focusing on big catalytic sites, but going above and beyond that, and this is sort of conversation at this point in time, but talk with the 3 bids, talk internally. You go back to their funds, right? You have to have a minimum project size of $200,000 to access the funds. Well, there's a whole bunch of opportunities that are below that. So we've been talking about how do we perhaps as a group of the bids, Capitalize Albany, get together so that we can maybe take some of this money and create another sub fund to do smaller projects, smaller storefront activations, because we kind of promised that, but the way the structure of the grants, it's a pretty sizable project to qualify for that. And I think there's gonna be a lot facade improvements, small business developments. Well, you know, I go back to the situation with the business with the donuts burned and needed a new place. How do we keep that? How do we make it bigger, better? We can address those types of things, but that might not fall into one of our categories. It might be smaller. So, you know, looking for perhaps partnerships and creating a chunk of this money to be given locally to distribute, and find the matching projects for it.
We see that as an application process to the ESD and then a.
Yeah, it would have to be, we kind of figuring it out ourselves. It really came about on discussions like this over the last month with the bids. And then our little internal meeting I brought up, we're not gonna be able to do it. And there's definitely gonna be a need, and we wanna just tell a lot of people no, and we wanna figure a way perhaps that we can achieve this. I think Capitalize Albany, the bids have all historically worked in that realm of projects of that size, and we're doing that type of project, so it seems to make sense.
Does, so there's a 2-to-1 residential unit requirement, is that what it is?
Two new units.
For every unit that exists?
No, so if somebody came in and there was a vacant 2-family in the zone, they're essentially eligible to apply.
How about a renovation of existing 10 units in
So if there's 10 units in there, they have to create at least 2 new units.
2 units? So that might be challenging in some of these core neighborhood type, South Bend, Overhill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also is providing opportunities that people didn't have, this money that's within the existing projects.
Yeah.
You know, and another type of program that we're looking at, perhaps we're using some of the funds, relates to, pooling some of this money perhaps for some upfront lending, right? To try and create, you know, I think the struggles are with some folks is getting that money to go at risk in some of these projects, especially where they're located, the condition that the properties are in. So that's pent up demand, right? That's pent demand, I think that if they were able to have an easier course of action, perhaps working with some of our local financial institutions, we could come up with a system that we could, you know, make it a little easier for people to take that risk. We can mitigate some of that risk. We can turn our money ultimately into the whole pro forma for a grant. I think, Michael's got some experience, I'm not sure of other banks, but, in central New York, I don't think we want to recreate the wheel, so there's some systems in place that we have with ESD funding and local institutions to help address this. So that's another, those are primarily the two programs I think we see that are missing after going through this.
Yeah.
Is that little smaller, activation program and helping, with smaller scale housing development upfront, construction lending, getting projects instigated.
Questions from the board? Anyone?
Michael, this is sort of like the high level, look it down, right, to how you're gonna run the project. Is there any consideration to, or was, the university and the nano complex to integrate some of that into this downtown area as part of this process to sort of bring some of those jobs and students, people into the downtown core?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and more than one way, Richard. So if you go into the Liberty Park section, we talk about creating an innovation district there. So how do we create an innovation district? We work with our innovators, the university, RPI, New York Creates, the higher education institutions, and some of our research facilities. That is part of where we're seeing the diversification of jobs, right? Trying to attract that type of job, trying to create that into a live, work, play, learn environment where people create a lot of time and effort in one area. We actually applied for at the regional council competitively working with our partners at UAlbany for money to accomplish this, to achieve competition. We did not win that competition in the last round. I'm not supposed to say this, but the Secretary of State did announce it at our public meeting that there's likely going to be another round of achieve. So we're already working very, very hard on that to make sure that we're competitive. And the idea would be to bring that money, the resources in that innovation district, hopefully as a component of Liberty Park or some other area within downtown core.
What are the component pieces of Achieve? What is it?
So, UAlbany's general entrepreneurship, research and development programs, working with our Go Semi and New York Creates to create sort of the missing piece we see there. Not everybody can get on those schools up at New York Creates. So how do we create an opportunity for researchers to attract research scientists from other institutions that might not be able to access those tools and have a system in place. A research facility based around advanced electronics, the core of what UAlbany does, which covers a wide variety of uses, bringing that whole ecosystem into the downtown. I think some of the folks that you're working with are looking to broaden that, maybe with some medical and bio research. But also, we also had in Syracuse, very popular food court that is the basis around some of the development. So would we instigate sort of a food court system, where we're actually helping small entrepreneurs, building some housing around it. So it's a full component of a neighborhood. Kendall Square is probably the prime example of it, but there's many examples that are throughout the country.
And also I would add, chip design.
Yes.
Our region is lacking in chip design, but we are primed for chip design, and that's more, think of that as more software, like laying out a chip layout, where you kind of imagine a video game company wants to be downtown where the creatives can walk out, grab a cup of coffee and live, work and play. So that's another opportunity. And that's a regional opportunity, right? That's not just Albany, these companies are gonna want to be in education. They tend to cluster. And we're really primed, I think, for that. I was just gonna add one more thing. I don't know if you got the last CEG email, but did you see the geography of prosperity application?
No.
Oh, so you gotta go on, it's geography of, and it ranks 250 cities, regions around the country for prosperity. And Albany, Schenectady came in at 8 out of the 250. And they look at different factors beyond the traditional they always use per capita in rankings, so that always hurts New York because we're a wealthy state. The per capita numbers just always gonna put us down. So this looks at environmental sustain or resiliency, your community, governance. How likely are you to adopt AI and you know, machine learning and we rank very high there. So when you look at our ranking and then you look at what the governor has invested in, you can see what, and it's Syracuse does quite well, I think 25, Rochester 35. So most of the New York State cities are all in the top, say 50 of the 250. So we're really well positioned. I think this is the spark that lights the. It's called Go to Geography.
We'll circulate it.
Yeah, we'll send it out. It's a really neat little tool.
So
Yeah.
Michael, so huge focus here is Liberty Club. And a huge focus for us is Liberty Club. Did we learn anything from the MIG? Anything different? Anything that informs? You know, so now we've opened this back up. We had two respondents, two competitors, which I just wondered what the plan articulated as far as a vision for that site.
Yeah, I think we're pretty aligned. I mean, it does envision, the consultant very early on felt that this is the one opportunity to achieve that first benchmark, growth target. That this is the biggest opportunity to have early and sustained residential growth, in a location. You know, we kind of looked around, right? People, like, you take a look at the development in Green Island, Starbuck Island.
Yes.
The waiting list to go from a 1 bedroom to a 2 bedroom with 100% everybody internal to the location. They don't want to leave. They want to move it to a bigger place. There's a waiting list over there. That product doesn't exist in Albany, right? That new townhouse sort of, new sort of low rise neighborhood feel with amenities does not exist from downtown Albany. It's patchwork. It's an urban development, which is like one of them that. But there's a large component of the population that sees that bottom. This is an opportunity to break that bottom. So they saw that, and then trying to keep it as neighborhood feel, not, you know, just big, large site, big parking structure, big, you know, big uses. Keep it as a neighborhood feel, which fits well with the innovation district idea. But also build some density there. I mean, it's a site.
There's a fair amount of density on the MIG plan.
It's a humongous amount of density in that plan. Yes, it's. So with the illustrations, and we came to terms with this because, you know, they're very aspirational. They're really, if everything's kicking in high gear, what could happen there? You know, we have some significant changes, globally in the economy, but also, you know, here in New York, what could potentially happen there? But there's a huge amount of density there. I don't think we should be forced to think that that's what has to be. I think we build what makes sense and we build over time.
Amazing. I think it's exciting. Any further?
Do you mind, Anders? So Mike, thanks for being here. Thanks for what you're doing, and you have done for the region. And this is great. My concern is that I don't think this is nearly enough to even get the flywheel moving, let alone keep it moving. And enough to get people to believe that there's a commitment. When you say, I think you said 2/3, or somebody said 2/3 of the city of Albany is tax exempt property. And I think the mayor told me, as she was beating me over the head, that 70% of Albany County's supportive housing of the entire county is in the city of Albany. That structural imbalance is not fixed with just this. And there needs to be a commitment to go further. And I know if you had a magic wand, you would wave it. But what do we do to address that issue? Because again, to try to get the flywheel to move and then to keep it moving, again, we wanna move the U Albany idea, which again, I'm an advocate, I'm chairman of the board. But that's more tax exempt property in a tax exempt district, and it just keeps going and going and going. So what can we do to address that issue? Because without it, you need another zero. I mean, if we're gonna have 2/3 of tax exempt property and 70% of supportive housing for the entire county, you can't get there from here. And again, I'm not trying to be the wet blanket. I love this. This is great, but we've all lived this for decades. So again, I open it up for not just for you, but I mean, is anybody else seeing what I'm seeing? Or the next item on the agenda.
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, I'll say things, but you know, as pointed out, and as, like, when the governor announced this, she actually went through and highlighted all of the different activities taking place in Albany and surrounding, and it's pretty impressive, right? All the work taking place that New York creates, building the new Wadsworth lab, you know, doing some pretty significant things throughout the region. Michael pointed out in this report how we rank statewide. I mean, the region's really strong. And if you look at Albany, throughout, there's a lot of strength in Albany. It's this downtown core, and this, Michael, is where, yeah, you see this concentration in and around this core of supportive housing, concentrations of poverty. That was balanced, I think, a lot over time with, you know, a robust daily activity of state government. The banking systems have changed, right? The footprint of banks, the footprint of many of the different, you know, our accounting firms. I mean, everybody's footprints are changing, everybody's shifting to a different thing. So we do need to work to shift as much as possible from a central business district to a central social district. So we gotta think more, you know, I'm not talking about, you know, booze infused nightlife again necessarily, but we need to create, you know, opportunities for people to bring in their money and spend it in downtown in positive ways and diversify those folks. More families, more visitation from people doing business and staying while they're doing business. So the more we can build upon that, I think is gonna be an early step to show a win. But we need, yeah, we do need more. So I think if we can get some early wins, which I think you will, if we can start, you know, showing that this money is gonna go out the door, I think we all have to come back again and, you know, there was the Buffalo billion, but then it got added on again, and then it got added on again, and I think we gotta start following that same thing.
So Mike, don't we, you know, and thank you obviously for all you do too, for the region and for this. Don't you worry about, you know, like, the talk about this area is always about a stable environment, but that stable environment hurts us in competitions like upstate revitalization, even Achieve. It's things that we feel, you know, over and over, we compete very, very well.
Yeah.
And then there's political considerations that take us out of the running. And that, you know, even this, I feel like is too much spread.
Yeah.
You know, that it's like, okay, here's our time, let's take it. And I guess, how do we change that narrative to get that in, you know, investment over time?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. You know, as raising a family, it's like, you know, the one kid who needs the most attention gets the most attention sometimes, and we don't need that attention in many cases. Now, this district, I think you've identified, needs this attention, right? Clearly, there's some situations here in this 1 mile area, and adjacent there too. That needs a little extra attention. So I think if we could show that we could make a meaningful change here, I mean, taking off the Liberty Park, right? The Liberty Park site, let's go back over history, right? I've been gone 12 years. I was here 9 years. And we've been talking about Liberty Park all of that time, right? So, at the time is now, we're prepared for it. We have the resources in place to do it. So, you know, having that momentum and people seeing that momentum, they're gonna build upon it. That's my feelings.
I have a question, so we have a rich history, right? I mean, we're founding the kind of the nation started here, and according to Ken Burns, the first sentence in his documentary was Benjamin Franklin convened the members of the states in Albany, which was the beginning of the Constitution. So, how are projects that are gonna be, let's say, not having a match component, like the canal proposal, or maybe something to do with the Dutch home, you know, the Liberty Park. Those types of projects are not gonna have an ability to get a direct match. How do those fit into the, I presume, the 120 million?
Yes.
Yeah,
Or something else, but
or
yeah,
something, you know, it could be in addition.
So I think Historic Albany probably does have a project that they put together, so hopefully they can leverage some match and come back to us, so we're working with them. I think, you know, but a great example is the waterway. They're not eligible right away, and obviously we like the idea, we showed it in one of the renderings, lot one, I think everybody can agree. A cool component of redeveloping the warehouse district, central warehouse site would be some waterway connection there. Great idea, but they're not eligible, right away level set, you guys are not eligible. Because you don't have site control, so I mean, we need to be able to have an actionable project. Concept. Another example, the Convention Center Authority working with Capital Streets. You know, and again, we recognize this, so we would love a reimagined State Street. That looks different than what it does today, that is more inviting to the pedestrian and the casual user. Maybe densifying some of the street there that is used for cars and other uses. So, they develop a really robust plan. Either one of them was eligible because it's a city street, like the city has to be the applicant there. So we need to, and we've already had conversations with folks at the city, and with them. You know, if it's gonna be a priority, so like from a streetscape standpoint, the city has money and a project for a Lower Central Avenue up to Townsend Park. So we're gonna we've already integrated ourselves in that, how can we add value to that? Do we wanna create another situation like that on State Street, that's a little bit heavier lift, there's not an identified pot of money, we're gonna have a match, we're gonna have to go out and secure more resources, so. A lot of these are gonna be work in progress.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to take lead in the canal project. at some
Right,
point in time.
I mean, that's the thing, that you need that preliminary investment for site acquisition. That's the role we've played in Liberty Park, right? It was several years, a lot of money of purchasing the parcels. And, is that, cause you know, I see those as kind of anchor poles in the plan, if you will, the projects like that, that need that care and attention.
Yeah. So specifically with that project, right, in the warehouse site, with the county having the central warehouse site, I'm highly encouraging that, and I would highly encourage Capitalize Albany to look at it as a bigger than just, as I mentioned, we're looking at this more than just a site. More than just that one rectangular piece of property, that is central warehouse or square piece of property. But the surrounding area, which we all feel we could have a higher and better use than the uses that are there. And that could be a marina, that could be a block one historic site.
Yeah. Michael, you bring an interesting perspective to this table. You've been here, you've been in the private sector, you're in the public sector in a big way. And you know this area because you've lived here. Apart from all of this, and to Michael and Sheila's point a little bit, what is our second half on the 400 million? If we're only looking to the corner, but we want to look down the street, is there a seed you plant here today for Capitalize Albany?
Well, for Capitalize Albany, it's really doubling down, I think, on the real estate aspect of things. I mean, I think that's where you've had the biggest bang for your buck, and Liberty Park as the example. I think, is it going over to the central warehouse? Is it part? I never had the dynamic of the county and the city kind of working together on economic development or a cross purpose, however you want to describe it. Two different entities right now doing work in the city in a big way, right? So I think really Capitalize Albany has to get back to being that main real estate development entity. That's where the needs are. That's the heaviest lift, considering the hurdles for the private sector. We're gonna impossible if you guys didn't do what you did, to be even talking about Liberty Park and the conditions that were down there with the private property owners. The leases that were underlying that for parking and all of that situation. So, it's hard work, but at least the results you've done, you've had results throughout the city with it. I think that that's really the focal point of it, and that's where another way for us to be able to secure more money, when you have these actionable, large capital projects, right? Initially $15 million to start off, Liberty Park was given because of that, so.
Other questions for the board? Michael, this is incredible to have you here. Again, just a couple points I want to make. One, the most important thing is our commitment to this project, working hand in glove with ESD and the governor's office to make sure that this achieves its absolute full potential, which is tremendous. Right, and I think this is a very special opportunity. We recognize that and we're committed to it. I think our process on Liberty Park, sometimes people don't appreciate how long it's taken, the assemblage, the litigation, the millions of dollars, the commitment around this table. Bring that together to get it to the point when we talk about being shovel ready and ready for actionable items. Today, because of years of process, that is ready for action, and that's exciting. And as we think about partnering with the city, I think, you know this better than I, this is a very special table. And we have representatives from the mayor's office, from the financial sector, from SUNY, all these strategic partnerships that we articulate, we need to bring to make this successful. That all sits around this table, and we are 100% committed to working collectively with you to make that happen. So I couldn't be more appreciative for you coming today. I think David articulates well. No one knows this room better than you. No one knows the city better than you. And this perspective you have from the private and public sector of putting it together makes it actionable. So we couldn't be more thrilled to be here and part of this and see how it unfolds. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll keep the conversation going. We are gonna have an intergovernmental sort of implementation team. CAC Board is gonna be a key priority. So, we should come back, benchmark this over time, talk about progress, let's talk about, new ideas. And definitely, let's not just rest on the fact that we got $200 million, right? Let's even think about more, making a big difference, so.
Achieve.
Exactly.
One quick question, to your point, the item number 4 about achieving $3 in private investment for every dollar of cap funding.
Yeah.
Has there been any early conversations around strategy, partners, ideas, targets?
Yeah, so if you read our actual guidelines, it almost makes that task impossible, where we're telling people we give 50% of the cost of a project, so everybody wants 50% of the cost of their project. So our underwriting is pretty intensive to make sure we're giving what the gap is and what the needs are and stretching the dollar as much as possible. But it's gonna be things like Liberty Park. I mean, that's gotta have a big amount of private investment to make it meaningful. So we have to make sure we're capturing that, but it's just, not, we've had a lot of discussions with a lot of quasi-public projects that only have public dollars to it. And kind of level setting that, this is just a component of it. It's not, it's not gonna be the full amount of money that you need for it, so you're gonna have to bring in other dollars.
Thank you.
Sure. Great. Thank you, Michael. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. And let's keep this dialogue going, Mike. Absolutely. So next order of business is report of the executive staff corporation update. Anything Ashley you want to highlight here? Things are new to us.
So I think because of the action items, we might actually suggest we run through, just cover the real property report and audit this.
Okay. Yeah, no, perfect.
So this is technically under report of the finance committee. We reviewed the real property owned by the corporation at the January meeting. And because this is posted online and part of our annual reporting required by the ABO, we do have on page 15 a copy of all of the various properties, big and small, mostly small parcels that amount to big property over the accumulation on page 15. So just an annual review of that, and we'll post it on our website. This pairs with Paris, which includes a transaction report. There were no real estate transactions this year, so
This is then for review only.
yes.
Okay, great. So page 15, you have a complete itemization of real property owned by the corporation. All right. Further business?
And then I think.
Just to level set, ultimately, all these reports that Ashley is going through reviewing, ultimately, at the end of this, she's gonna need the board authorization for the staff to hit the button to submit to the public authorities reporting information system known as Paris around this table. So that's the goal that she's walking through this. All of these reports are part of the public information that this authority publishes and submits every year. And so this is our March meeting traditionally going through these documents.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do at the end of this, a board resolution. And the audit is obviously a very important part of this, and that's why Brian is here. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no worries. So we'll take the, good kick it off. We will take, report of the audit committee next, and between Michael and Brian, you guys. do the thing.
And guys, before you go there, can I just hit the rewind button for a second? The last item on your listing, the Corning Preserve. So, one of my favorite topics over the last 20 years. But now that the bonds are paid, that is the property that is restricted for any commercial activity because of that reverter clause in that.
To DOT.
Right. Wouldn't this be the right time to appeal and ask for that to be removed? If the governor is interested, if everybody's interested in go Albany, go.
Great.
I mean, most people don't even know it exists.
Yeah.
So for us to go, and it is a costless issue for them to just be able to say, yes, we're removing this. Go and develop, because that is consistent with what their what the research plan is. It's consistent with what the governor is saying. It seems like if there was ever a time for us to make that ask, it's now.
Completely agree. Yes. We should have said that before Michael left.
Just to be clear though, it's a federal government restriction, it's not a state government restriction. So it's derived from the fact that we use federal highway dollar to build to acquire the land to build 787. So that's where we ran into it. We ran into a similar reverter issue at 11 Clinton. But I think in that case it was a state DOT reverter.
So the issue at 677 Broadway, when we assembled that,
So I'm not saying we shouldn't
I think we should.
push forward
I think
and
we
make
should
it pass.
evaluate it, push it forward. I agree with Michael, the time is right
Yeah.
now.
And I know as 787, the redesign happened, one of the objectives is to generate more commercial and residential activity around, where 77 bisects us from the river and the South End. That's only gonna happen if you can get rid of the reverter language, so. I mean, I say, go full bore, but understand that I believe it takes an act of Congress, so. Not that isn't possible, but it isn't as simple as just asking, the governor to do something.
I think it's important, and the one thing, a thing that Chris and I have talked about is how do we engage our electeds on the federal level more actively, more effectively. And they are clearly aligned with these objectives, and how we engage them to bring things like this forward is really important. It's actually one of the most transformational opportunities that exists out there. Right?
Absolutely.
reimagining the waterfront, recapturing the waterfront. That's respectful to open space. I'm not saying we're gonna pave the waterfront, but
Right.
that enhances the open space, enhances access, increases utilization, creates an economic engine. Very exciting. My recommendation is to have staff come back to us with some ideas about what needs to happen and what we need to do to think about that.
Where are we just, with the U Albany, rowing facility and the rowing team? So now we have a team and we go under the bridge and invite other wonderful universities to meet us under the bridge. So where are we with that? Does anybody know? Because it ties into the
Yeah, absolutely.
whole thing.
Could be huge.
I've heard some things, but I don't know if they're public, so.
Oh, I don't wanna breach the cameras.
Don't pierce.
It might be.
I'm very interested in that as a former rower. And I've rowed on the Schuylkill and the Charles and all those places. It's a powerful engine. And it's exciting, dynamic and quality of life issue. And we do have a boathouse. It's a boat shed. I've rowed there. It's fine, right? But the potential for that as is bigger than that.
Again, as we're looking for catalysts.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, could that be another catalyst? Combine these things together and then all of a sudden. Not only are we channeling economic momentum, but physical momentum, right? Things that are actually there. That I think could reflect well on the region.
As we think about the reverter clause and this uses like that.
Other catalysts.
That aren't intense commercials, that would be great as augmented.
Yeah. So Michael, you're on fire. One more idea for a hat trick. What do you got?
It's early. I got another cup of coffee and.
Not a riverfront, no.
Right.
Michael's already been out for 13 hours.
Yeah.
All right, so we're on the audit committee
Audit committee. All right, so
and boathouse.
I'd like to thank audit committee. We convened earlier this week with Brian. Jessica Blau has left, but we have a new manager assigned. And but that did not impact our continuity, and Brian was nice enough to prepare a summary of the audit, and I thought maybe you could say a few words, and then I've got a few comments about significant items in the financials, and then Andrew, you may have anything that I might have missed. If that sounds good, let's try that.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So yes, I'm Brian Kearns with UHY, and as Michael mentioned, Jessica Blaha's longtime manager recently left the firm, but she actually joined the GASB, the Government Accounting Standards Board. So it's nice to have that liaison in Connecticut for, the standard setters that oversee everything. So we performed our independent audit, and, you as a public authority reporting to Paris, is that 90-day reporting deadline. So it's really a quick turnaround from management to, timely report on your year end to make that March 31st filing, that many even, public authorities don't make or municipalities, but happy to report that it's an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that you can receive from your independent auditor, that the financial statements that are in front of you are free of material misstatement and they're in accordance with all generally accepted accounting principles. So we actually issue a report over your financial statements, we opine on them, as well as a report on internal control over financial reporting. So if there was any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, those would be reported in writing as part of the report. Happy to report there's no matters, in that regards to that nature that needs to be reported. So, really from a financial statement position, you're in a solid position. There's, some one-time events that happened in the previous year, if you're looking year-over-year comparability, but, you had an increase in net assets in the current year of almost $200,000. And, again, everything, working with management throughout the audit process, all adjustments have been made and, management, just a reminder that your outsourced external bookkeeping assistance changed in late December. So, management has rose to the challenge of timely reporting right at year end and working with us throughout the process to make sure all adjustments are properly reflected and your financial statements are in order as of year end.
And I was just gonna add, if you wanted to dig into the financials on page 10. Restricted cash reflects 1.6 million from deferred revenues from ESD. These are, we've talked about this at prior board meetings, that there's a bit of a tail to receiving those funds, that pops up. I'd say, note 8, gets into the major change there was removing a timeline language related to the litigation associated with Liberty Park. Now we get more clarity as to where the valuation is coming in. And then finally, revenues are down by an amount that you may have, it appears that revenues are down. If you go to note, that you can find that in the, on page 11, but if you go to note 11 on page 25, that's because we had the revolving loan fund last year that was returned, closed up, and that money flowed in 2024. So you're seeing, it appears as if it's a decline rather than just really it was the prior year was higher than normal. I think that was it, Andrew. I don't know if there's anything else that I missed that you think would be noteworthy.
I'm not sure what I could do to build off that.
Okay.
Guys, thank you. Just, I think 25 fiscal year end represents a return to normal operations for the most part. I think 24. A lot of anomalous activity, good activity, but anomalous that wasn't occurring in 25. And I think that represents the disconnect financially between the 2 years. I think 25 represents a more normal operational year than we saw in 24. And just to thank UHY for the support and the audit committee for their guidance.
Yeah, and Andrew, great job just keeping everything, right on schedule. The board is, we do have the audit financials, but we also have the management assessment and effectiveness of internal controls. And as Brian has said, there was no concerns on internal controls identified. And then there's also the self-evaluation report by the audit committee, which was also completed. And these, I believe, Tom, we're recommending for just to notify the board.
It's a report to the board.
Yeah.
Again, level set on governance.
Yeah.
Our audit committee in its charter actually approves the financial statements, the audited financial statements, and accepts the audit results.
Yeah.
So this is a report to the board.
And we did accept and so we're recommending.
Yeah.
We're good there. So the next, and this is the kind of the Paris report. I just want to remind, in the Paris report, all board members' information is listed. Please review that for your own personal information, make sure that it's accurate. So that.
And it's as of for the 2025 year, so it wouldn't include the deputy mayor.
Right, that's right.
But for next year.
For next year, right. And then we also have the procurement report, investment report. We did not make any changes to those policies or and that's reflected in the report.
Right.
And again, in this case, it's board is a.
So on these, the board actually approves, so I'm gonna ask if I could, and again, as Michael said, please look at your board member information. The staff spends a lot of time on these Paris reports. This is a system that was probably rolled out in the early 90s. Good news, maybe, this year in state budget, there is funds for what's called a new Paris upgrade system that probably a couple years out. But this is not a very user intuitive system. I used to spend, 15, 20 years ago, a fair amount of time in it, trying to make these reports myself. So I know it's not simple, but please check your information page and make sure if you have any corrections, get it to staff. We go through this each year, and I think we've got it pretty well ironed out. But if there is if we don't have you, if we don't recognize a state appointed position or something like that, please inform staff. So that's it. But I would like at this point, we would need just a voice resolution is great. And the resolution, first and second, if we could get it, would be to, approve and authorize the staff to submit to the Harris the following reports, the annual report, procurement report, and then the investment report, those three.
Okay, so you've heard that motion articulated, for the
I will,
as chair, and again, the second, please. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very unanimous. Wonderful.
I would just add that, despite, sort of the cumbersome nature of some of this reporting, it does present a really amazing synopsis of the disbursements made in the 2025 year, for the grants, and so that'll pair in tandem well with Cassidy's update upcoming, as well as, the procurement report, so the various, different vendors that we've worked with through the year, and, how we've refined and aligned our procurement policy and our practices with that procurement policy. So serves a great purpose, despite being a little bit time consuming. I will jump to, just under the corporation update, a couple of quick updates here. We do have an active real estate pipeline on, the CADA side of the house, or separate and apart from Capitalized Albany, but obviously we staff that. So we have 54 State Street that we're working with right now, going for a public hearing resolution. That's an office to residential conversion. We have 135 Ontario Street, former land bank property that will be converted into apartments. And we're also working on Kiernan Plaza. As the latest concept is 50 units of workforce housing combined with their data center, and bringing the 518 virtual business to that site. So staff is very, very busy on that front with those.
Will there be additional space for other businesses, and will 518 take up the whole commercial use, or?
As it stands now, the majority.
The majority.
Because of the nature of the building, like having it be so open in the atrium, there will be an opportunity for potential events, sort of location with necessarily tenants.
Okay.
As it stands right now. So then, related to real estate, I do believe you may have received a notice about an upcoming ribbon cutting for 33 Center Street Apartments. That is also an IDA project on former land bank property. That's at noon on April 3rd, I believe. So welcome to attend. We'd encourage you to attend and support Rich Vito on that development. I think is first in the city and first through the IDA at least. And there's going to be a number of grants related ribbon cuttings coming up that we'll be notifying you about, potentially Stacks Espresso and Fredetta Retail and Ninth and Ciderworks for facade. You'll also be receiving annual investor registration in the next month or so. So keep an eye out on that. I think with that, I'll jump to Cassidy on the grants update, required reporting. Thanks, Chris.
Maybe not appropriate for this group, but first time here, so I'm not sure. Any type of synopsis or next steps that we need to be thinking about in terms of 1211 Western? I feel that thing hanging around like that real soon, so I'd be interested in that.
So for those, if you didn't see the news last week, the CAC Board did opt to terminate benefits on that project. It has been a long road to that cap. They had a very long leash. And we had in the fall, the board had executed an MOU to give them very measured timeline for getting forward with construction. They did meet, getting their building permit on time. However, they had 60 days from building permit to get to commencement of construction, and they did not do so. Their latest communication had indicated it was going to be another 30 days before they were even on site with any sort of robust activity. I think it was time, but to Chris's point, I think, our board has said, we will be open to support and actively try to engage that site in whatever means, possible in the future. I guess the presumption is, they were trying to work toward and closing on financing. So we just don't know if they'll be able to do so with, the pilot termination.
So help a new guy out here. Who needs to lead the effort to get something to happen in there? Is that a city thing? Is that the developer thing? Like who do we need to lean on so that something can happen? Because there's gonna be a lot of angry people up there if that brick just sits there.
Yeah. I think historic situations like this capitalized only can be an effective tool to be an interface between the public and private sector to try and get things done. Right now, I think you have private control of private property, and that's defining the outcome there, and they kind of singularly control what's going on. I'm not aware of any activity through the financial applications. I'm not aware. Doesn't mean it's not happening, but I think it's gotta come from the private sector to drive that forward. I don't know if anyone else has any opinions
think
or.
The city has, they have a stick in terms of code enforcement, so. The extent that buildings out of code or not code compliant. That's one thing the city could be doing. I think the IDA could be projecting a more, we're happy to work with anyone who wants to redevelop that site, messaging. I don't know if that messaging is being heard by the Times Union, but certainly that type of messaging would be important. I don't know if there are any other, carrots out there that could help.
Are they current on taxes?
Yes.
Yes.
Who owns it? I'm sorry, who owns it?
DMG Investments.
Out of Manhattan. We would hope that the development community here will step in and there'll be an acquisition at some point. We've spoken to some local developers and to John's point, we certainly will continue to project support for that site to get that over the hump.
What is the reason it hasn't gone forward? Now, is it a design issue or a feasibility issue? Is it?
All of them.
Oh, it was not, that entity was not capable of taking the commission. Unfortunately.
Chris, I don't know if we gave you clarity.
Well, I think it's a great question. I don't want to belabor it, but I think it's a great question. How can we be proactive in picking a developer, putting a package together as opposed to waiting for them to come to us? Can we make that shovel ready for them? Can we get engaged with the owner and find a win-win? Even if we can help with that, as opposed to waiting. Because one, it is terrific, but we could also show the relevance of capitalized Alderman by taking something that is an eyesore and turning it into something that is absolutely necessary. So I'm just wondering how, what can we do? What should we do? I feel like we're waiting for something to happen from someone, and I guess, can we be to someone? No, again, very uninformed question, but can we be to someone?
I agree 100%. I think staff has to engage directly with the ownership, find out what they need to accomplish or what they want to accomplish, and how do we facilitate something positive there.
I mean, Anders and I have both been on the wrong side of these transactions, and if you wait for the financial institution to do it, it can take years. Before a financial institution will actually take ownership, and then you just have a fire sale. So that's the worst possible outcome. It's not a route that I think is potentially more proactive. Now if they won't answer our call, if they don't want to talk, if they don't want to play, I think John came up with some, we can put some pressure on them, but there might be I'm sure they're looking for a way out. they've got money invested in the site that, you know, they're burning money every day as well.
I do know that certain developers have walked the property, talked to the ownership, and nothing's happened. I can't tell you exactly why. Cause I don't know, you know, but I don't know, but I think there's challenges on the site that are economic. And that's, but I think you have to engage at a direct level.
Yeah, we will, you know, we're aware of developers that have entertained you know, purchase offers there. I think at the point in time DMG was at, they weren't willing to accept those offers at the level that they were presented.
They
and so
were,
we can-
we're not, they're sorry, we're not.
We're not willing to, yeah, we had heard of at least one, possibly two developers that had put in offers. They weren't willing to accept it. They were still trying to get their stuff in order to line up towards construction. I think now that, you know, things are terminated, you know, we can revisit conversations and see what's possible there with interested entities and see if they're willing to talk and come to the table with buyers.
I'd like to propose a motion to award Michael the hat trick.
I was gonna think about that, but I'll give it to Chris, because Chris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
Chris initially-
I just get the assist, Chris is the one that actually said it goes.
More of an assist. Not a full point.
Not enough, full point. It was an assist.
It was an assist.
It was an assist.
Good effort,
Yeah.
strong. Yeah.
I think we were transitioning to Cassidy to do the annual required grant update and that'll wrap up. Corporation.
Yes. So this memo was furnished to the Board of Directors pursuant to section 6 of each master grant agreement between the corporation and the City of Albany Capital Resource Corporation. An annual reporting of the results of each small business grant program governed by these agreements will be provided annually, no later than April 15th to the board. Reports should include information regarding the amount of each grant awarded, employment and business opportunities created or retained, and the total amount granted by CAC to applicants under each program. Programs included under these agreements are Amplify Albany, Downtown Retail, Neighborhood Retail, and the Small Business Facade Improvement Programs. To date, CRC has committed 1.3 million, including scheduled 2026 allocations to support small business grant programs administered by Capitalize Albany Corporation. Albany Community Development Agency has committed an additional $375,000 for the Small Business Facade Improvement Program. In the 2025 financial year, CRC allocated $100,000 to the corporation for grant funding. CRC also budgeted $185,000 in grant funding for the 2026 financial year to be released to the corporation subject to the agreements. Pursuant to the approved program guidelines, the corporation has made 174 awards totaling $1,463,977.62 to small businesses and organizations across the city of Albany since 2016. Of these awards, $984,884.60 has been reimbursed, with another $278,933.08 still obligated to outstanding awards. Program awards have been geographically diverse, funding small businesses in over 16 distinct neighborhoods, with 146 in Albany Community Development Agency designated neighborhood strategy areas. Additionally, Kaylee has also recently taken the lead on organizing some small business grant and nonprofit grant workshops that have seen a really great turnout in recent months. I think our last one earlier this month had over 60 attendees. Yeah, just to briefly mention, this is kind of part of a series that we're going to be working on. Just to support those who are small businesses as well as nonprofits who are looking for those grant funding opportunities. We partnered with the city. The mayor came and gave a great welcome. That really also helped our registration numbers, which we're very thankful for, as well as partnering with the Community Loan Fund and Albany Housing Authority. So we're looking forward to continuing those partnerships and hosting our workshops throughout the different neighborhoods. So this one was in the South End, and our first one was in partnership with the CBID. So we were at the Steam Garden on Central Avenue. Additionally, you have some more figures included in the memo that was distributed. If anyone has questions about that, please approach staff and we can give you some more info on those.
Yeah, and I'll just add that as Haley and Cassie said, on the grant workshops, that came as a direct recommendation from Mayor Clears prior to coming into office. We were having some of the conversations about the CAP initiative. I think in past practice with the city's ARPA process, things like that, I think there was some concern that there were entities out there that didn't have the capacity to necessarily write a grant and or be successful in that grant application process to even get them a chance, but that they are doing the day-to-day work of many of these types of projects, but maybe the grant writing capacity hasn't really met that standard for grant writing. So with that in mind, we've been working to develop some, starting from sort of the ground floor of what, makes a grant application. The core components workshop was that one, and then kind of trying to drill in on those basic capacity building exercises, but also where to focus. So a potential upcoming workshop would be drilling down on the budget. Everybody struggles with putting together, well, maybe not everybody, there's a bunch of bankers around the table, but many people struggle with developing the budget, including the appropriate matches and all of the requirements for the grant, and making sure that it's all consistent with your uses of funding and having that put together. So there has been requests for that to be a specific dedicated workshop in the future. So just really trying to expand capacity locally so that other organizations, we can bring up other organizations to do parallel complementary work in this sphere across the board. Something I will also add, this is on the Liberty Park front. We had updated last board meeting that we had got that phenomenal decision from the appellate division. I'm just giving a brief update that PSC did submit their motion for leave to appeal. So they are seeking the court's permission to appeal. So no surprise there.
Yeah, this was not unexpected, so they're trying to get the Court of Appeals to hear it, so that, again, not unexpected.
Just burning.
More to follow on.
But they're on a limited time frame, right? It's like
30 days.
30 days.
So unsurprisingly, they filed, it's fairly, completely expected. So, yeah, we can talk more about it in executive session if we choose to.
Anything more for the phone?
Nope.
If not, why don't we go into an executive session, get an update on matters of
Okay, so this would be to discuss ongoing litigation, the parties involved, QFT LLC. So if we can get a first, second,
second and vote, please. First. In a second. That's one. Sure. All right.
And this is just litigation.
all in favor, yes, sir.
Okay, so I can stay here.
Yeah.
All right, so can we get a motion to leave executive session, please? Second, favor. All right, report of activities in executive session.
We discussed litigation and no actions were taken.
That's fantastic. I appreciate everybody's commitment today. Is there any more items to be brought for board's consideration, Beth? Nope. Motion to adjourn? All right, thanks all. Appreciate it.